How's it going, everyone? This is MOS Tricks, and happy second day of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. For those of you that got the early access at the very least, hopefully you guys are great practicing and actually figuring out the mechanics. And speaking of which, I'm going to be doing some very casual guides, kind of like a guide discussion like how we're about to do right now. And what I wanted to talk about was landing your specials. If you're someone who's absolutely brand new, there's nothing that is more fun than just YOLO, using your specials at max range because you like to just see the beam travel across the entire map and hopefully land. But I will say that against even average players, it's actually extremely easy to dodge a special. Most players, you don't actually even need to vanish it, honestly. You can just move to the side very almost awkwardly or almost in an embarrassingly slow speed and you will get out of the way. But there is a way that you can actually land your specials much more successfully. So the first one, of course, is going to be comboing into your specials. If you just do square spam, and if you happen to knock your opponent away with the triangle, if you're on PlayStation 5, you can go for, let's say, your special after you go for your final knock away, and if you do it quick enough, there's not much that they can really do. That's one of the main ways that you guys are going to be comboing into your specials for sure. But in my opinion, one of the better ways to actually land your specials is to use them defensively. Right here, you're going to see me use Stardust Barrier to actually counter the opponent's special. And right here, I didn't really need to do that. I kind of just wanted to test it out for myself. And for anybody who's a League of Legends player, it's kind of like the wind wall. I think it's Yasuo that has the wind wall, but either way, it's something that it just beats everything, or it stops everything. So it's just one special that Gogeta happens to have. But I will say that using your specials defensively the moment that your opponent uses theirs is going to be one of the best ways to use your specials. So step number one is using your specials as a counter attack, but step number two is actually knowing what your specials do. And this almost sounds hilarious to say, but I can't even tell you how many times I've autopiloted pressing the wrong buttons and I'm just dashing into the face of death because they're going for a beam as I'm going for a dash in or a rush. Like right there, once again, I use the Stardust Barrier to just knock away that rush in. I'm just experimenting with it just to see how it works. And it literally does stop everything, which is pretty sick. But anyways, for the most part, you want to try to get familiar with what your specials actually are. And there's a little bit of a RPS or a rock, paper, scissors as to which specials beat which. And I'll kind of break that down. This is not a golden rule or a law by any means to say that if you do this, it'll guarantee to work every single time. But for the most part, this does in fact work. And that is that if you happen to go for a beam, beams will basically always beat a rush. As far as with my experience, I'm pretty sure that it actually took it out, but in BT3, you did have the ability to actually move around in space, so you could go around a counter-attacked beam if you happen to initiate a rush and then they tried to counter-attack you with a beam. But I don't think you can do it here. And so you're going to see right here, the opponent happens to do a couple power-ups right here and then tries to rush in, and as soon as I see this rush, I throw out a beam and he actually dies from this. So this is kind of a side note, but make sure you're really managing your key meters as well as you possibly can. Just in the event that someone happens to rush at you, you can immediately counter-attack them like that. Now, as far as countering beams in a general sense, they're a little bit more complex because there are definitely beams that are super fast. I'll say like a Frieza death beam, and then there's also things that curve a little bit more like a traditional Kamehameha, or there's, let's say, Destructo discs. Like some of these things really track, and some things are really slow. Some things are horrific at tracking, and some things are almost instant. So it's not quite as simple as to say, oh, you just get out of the way by doing this and it works every single time. There are some moves that are a little bit on the wider side as well. I think it's Eraser Cannon. If you try to vanish that, it can still hit you. I'm pretty sure it's that, and it might be Burning Attack as well. Don't quote me on that, but I think those wider ball attacks that aren't really a beam, if you try to vanish them, they can still hit you. I'm going to be doing a ton of testing in the future, and I'm planning on dropping an entire guide on all the different major projectiles and supers to say, okay, if you know that this character happens to have this type of beam or this type of death ball or whatever, you know how to get around it with your character. Because for some characters, you really just got to eat that shit, bro. You got to block it, because if you try and vanish, it's going to be worse. Or if you happen to have instant transmission, then maybe you have a chance to instant transmission and go for a super behind their back because they're stuck in a long animation. Or if a character has a horrible tracking special, then in a lot of cases you can just dash to the side, throw out your own special, and while they're trapped in their animation, you get a punish for free. Or in some cases as well, if you have a ton of keys stored up, you could just opt for a beam clash and boost that shit and just overpower them for even challenging you. So there's a lot of different counterplay, and I will say that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has actually done a very good job of making all the different specials feel very unique. When the game was in first spec speculation and I never had a chance to actually play it, I was super worried that every single beam and every single blast was going to be the exact same and just be glorified special effects, but the counterplay was the exact same for every single character, and that is absolutely not the case. So there's actually a lot of depth and there is actually a lot to learn, which is great for the longevity of the game, because like I'd said, and I'm sorry I'm kind of going over this again, but I would be absolutely dying if this game took about 20 minutes to master and then you could just play every single character the exact same way. So thank God it's not actually like that, and it's going to make the game a lot more fun and a lot more fun to actually learn. Also, on a side note, after doing a little bit more testing, I'm pretty sure you actually do have the ability to vanish forward to get past the blasts that are a little bit on the wider side, like the eraser cannon. So that's something I got to try and look into a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure you do have the ability to at least vanish those as well. You obviously don't want to vanish forwards on a full-on beam, because you're going to still be in the beam when it's finished or while it's still going. So there is counterplay to literally everything, and it's like I mentioned, it's nice that there is nuance. But anyways, the main takeaway is that you cannot spam your specials. Of course, everybody wants to use the special effects. It looks super cool. If it happens to land, it does a ton of damage, but realistically you have to use it with a bit of strategy. I will say that even this is not even from a competitive standpoint. This is even if you're playing against AI in the story mode or custom mode. If you just think you can just go ahead and do a full stage giant full ultimate in sparking and it's going to land every single time, you're absolutely wrong. So it's good to know that you want to use them primarily as a combo finisher, which is always great. Or if you don't get the opportunity to do that, you want to hold on to your key so you do have the opportunity to go for a counter attack and punish someone for just frivolously going for it themselves first. I'm going to be dropping tons of guides on every single aspect of the game in the form of shorts. I've dropped a couple at this point, and I've been branding them as Ultra Instinct. You might have seen them flying around, maybe not, but I highly recommend checking them out if you are in fact trying to learn the game to the best of your ability. Once again, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you'll learn something new, and as always, have a great day.